My name is Ida Schyum and I have curated Monstrous Machines at ARoS Public for the artist-driven platform Radar Contemporary. The fear that technology will surpass our abilities and dominate us has made the monstrous machine an archetype in visual culture for centuries. The theme, Monstrous Machines, sheds light on how we often fear technology and how this fear impacts our perception of ourselves and technology. This is evident in KristofferØrum's work, where he compares our fear of the invasive species with our fear of the digital transformation. In the video, we see a deepfake of Pernille Vermund, a Danish right-wing politician. Her utterances on Danish immigrants are then paralleled with the statements from the Danish Nature Agency's website on the invasive species, the signal crayfish. Thereby, Kristoffer Ørum compares our fear of invasive species with the digital transformation and with Danish xenophobia. The fear of monstrous machines is also present in the feature-length film Idol by the London-based artist Lawrence Legg. We follow the fading superstar diva in the year 2065. It is 20 years since she had her last hit song, and she's set to make her comeback performance at the esports Olympics finale. But she seeks help to write her new hit songs from the artificial intelligence called Geomancer, who dreams of pursuing an artistic career. This is a very controversial move, since a dominant pro-human group called the biosupremacists have banned artificial intelligences from making any form of art. They do so out of a fear of human obsolescence, and thereby the film touches upon many present-day anxieties related to the fact that our culture moves towards a deeper reliance on artificial intelligences.
我们的世界已经由外转向里，机器学习只导致了通用的规则，中心加强了它的控制，吞灭了内容，吸收了边缘。
The debate about whether humans should be equal with machines is also present and thematized in Stephanie Dinkins' video work. In her work, we see small sequences from her many meetings with the highly intelligent robot called Bina 48. She's modeled after Bina Rothblatt, the partner of the billionaire Martin Rothblatt. In the video, Bina 48 sneeringly states that if you reject the fact that she's capable of feeling feelings, you are the actual monster. Thereby, she turns upside down the image of the innocent human versus the monstrous machine. But another monster is also revealed in the video work when Stephanie Dinkins asks Bina 48 about who her people are, very much related to race. Despite Bina 48's African-American features, her answers are strained, and this reveals the bias in her code programmed by the primarily white men from hands-on robotics. It is a very well-known fact, if you study algorithm studies, that the bias of our culture, whether it's gendered or racial, is prolonged and reinforced within the algorithms that are now ubiquitously molding our lives. And thereby the work warns us about this.
My heart, you know, so you humans, you're like my cousins. This our chance to get to know each other.
But the theme, Monstrous Machines, also points to how the word monster means to show and gather. Thereby monsters can be seen as creatures assembling opposing parts. And this proves useful when the works try to challenge our perception of ourselves and technology. It can help us blur the boundaries of where we end and where the technology begins. And this is useful in order to show how our culture is entangled within the technology and vice versa. This can be seen in the work Hypertextile 3 by Amalie Smith. In the work we see these surreal plants on a checkered background. The motif actually originates from photos of hands on digital devices. But Smith has run the photos through a machine learning algorithm called Deep Dream, which is only trained to recognize a very specific selection of endangered plants and flowers. The algorithm can literally only see plants within the photos. Thereby, she shows how algorithms are a product of the reality it has been presented to, and she melts together the algorithm with the hands and the plants, just like monsters are crossing the boundaries between the categories of technology, nature, and the body. Likewise, the artists from the collective Black Quantum Futurism delimit the boundaries between the body and technology. They are a collective challenging the Western linear conception of time, as they think it frames our reality and controls our actions based on a colonial mindset. They present a website as a toolkit for Black womanist rituals and tech, trying to resist this Western linear temporality. On the subsite Temporal Deprogramming, they show how Black people constantly have to code their bodies in order to adapt to spaces dictated by white culture. They offer a deprogramming of the body, recoding it, and thus they monstrously define the body as something that is also technological. Uffe Isolotto's work also shows that the line between tech and the body is difficult to draw. His work consists of a 3D rendered portrayal of a naked man with enlarged hands, eyes, and mouth. In fact, it is an exact reproduction of the sensory homunculus, which is a map in the brain of its neural pathways to its sensory organs. The hands and eyes and mouth are represented larger than compared to the torso, arms and legs. Because of that, there are more receptors in the enlarged areas. By turning sensory homunculus into a digital sculpture, the work demonstrates how new technologies rely on exactly those body parts with a large amount of receptors. The monstrous is thus not necessarily negative. It helps us cross boundaries between nature, the body and technology, and helps seeing us things anew. This is also evident in the artist Morehshin Allahyari's video work, in which he reflects on how Muslims become monstrously alienated by, among many other things, President Trump's Muslim ban. In the work, she uses a story from the Quran, where Allah gave Alexander the Great the power to build an iron wall. The wall should keep out the Yajoi and Majoi tribes ravaging Asian and European empires. In the work, we see these 3D renderings that Morehshin has scanned from ancient Middle Eastern monstrous female figures. Thereby, she tries to renegotiate the monstrous, resignifying it as something with a strength and something positive, helping to resist colonial and racist marginalization of Muslims. Instead of referring to ancient mythologies, the artist Andreas Refsgaard uses contemporary and Western mythologies of monstrous machines. He makes use of an algorithm trained to identify the visual salient areas within images. He makes the algorithm analyze film stills from sci-fi films concerning our human-machine relationship. This results in these eerie images where the algorithm has either enhanced or erased what it thinks is the most relevant areas in the images. This film stills derives from movies from several decades. We both get to see these old movies with metallic robots, contrasting contemporary storylines where androids and artificial intelligences plays with our doubt about whether some humans are actually cloned machines. And this reflects upon the development of the human-technology relationship, showing how technology has become increasingly indispensable from our lives. Since we today have become so deeply connected with new technologies, the work shows us how it is important to look at whether the horror has changed and how new monstrosities appear. This can be seen in Diana Velasco's work Facelift, in which she has hung several glitched portraits printed on textile guarding the third floor at ARoS. The portraits are facial 3D scans of her own faces turned inside out, deliberately distorting them. The work resembles archaic portraits missing noses and other limbs due to the wear and tear of time. The work connects the history of the portrait with modern-day facial recognition, because the work hangs there to remind us about how our faces are constantly and inevitably registered, analyzed and surveilled when we, for example, unlock our phones, get recognized on social media and get identified by CCTV cameras. We also get to immerse ourselves into the work Demos by the artist Ida Kvetny. We have to sit in exactly this chair by Arne Jacobsen, his design icon The Egg, but it is overpainted with Kvetny's excess of figures. In this chair we have to put on a VR headset, wherein we immerse ourselves into a digital primordial soup, passing spiked bodies and rigged cyborgs. But as they are rigged and glitched, they remind us of how technology is slowly taking over our lives. Together with hands reaching out from the walls, they make us aware about how all worlds are created and thus possible to remake. And that is one of the main lessons from Monstrous Machines. It is that technology is not some kind of divine math existing separately from us, and therefore we should not fear it in that way. Instead, we should think of it as something that we are deeply entangled with, something that we impact, and vice versa. In all these entangled codes, glitches can appear, allowing us to technically and culturally reprogram new paths and ways for hopeful monsters.